Hey everyone, it's Mario here. I wanted to let you guys know before I start this week's episode that we're going to be splitting this one into two parts. We had a lot of fun chatting with our friend Jerry from Mouse Rants about some of the live-action films that came to us out of the Disney Parks IPs, and we kind of went a little bit over the time limit that we set for ourselves. At the time that we recorded this, it almost ended up being about 2 hours, and we also were thinking about taking the week off because of the holiday season, so we just wanted to release this in a more consumable fashion and put a part out this week and a part out next week. This week's part is going to focus on the Tower of Terror movie, Mission to Mars, and Country Bears Jamboree. We hope you enjoy. Now let's roll that intro music.
Give me a little intro there, Gomer.
Let's put on the show.
You're listening to episode number 61 of the Station 71 podcast. My name is Mario, and this week I'm joined by my co-hosts,
Beth,
Brian,
Kirsten,
and our special guest co-host, Jerry.
Hi.
So, this week, obviously, we're joined by Jerry from Mouse Rants.
Thank you for having me.
It's very exciting to have you. I'm super excited to talk about the topic this week. We're going to be going over some of the Disney IPs that made it from the parks to the screens. But first, as always, let's dive into some of our news topics this week. So first up, in a very upsetting news story, Stan Lee, Marvel's creator founder, has passed away at the age of 95. Yeah, this is very, very upsetting news.
Mm-hmm.
Extremely upsetting. My boyfriend literally called me at work and broke the news to me, and we were both just like sitting on the phone all depressed like, man, this sucks. What a legend.
Yeah, and even being someone that hasn't been a huge like Marvel Comics fan or Marvel movie fan, just like the impact that he's had on pop culture just is like, it's incredible. Even from somebody that's not a huge fan of all that stuff, like it reaches so far. Like everybody knows some of the Marvel characters, whether or not you read any of the comics or saw any of the movies. They're so instantly recognizable.
Mm-hmm.
This is like insane too, because like you said, he's just connected with so many different people, and he's definitely one of like the top creators of our lifetime, at least.
Sorry, I was just gonna say, my boyfriend had an interesting comment that I thought I'd bring up, is that he was like, well, I'm glad that he at least got to see Marvel in its current state where it's like thriving, versus like if he had passed away when he was having to like sell everything for pennies.
Oh yeah,
that would have been
true.
really bad.
Yeah, that's very true. So let's jump into the next thing that we got on here. We have another Skyliner update because we've been following this one very closely. The Skyliner's set to open in fall of 2019, and we also got some displays of the actual Skyliner itself at the IAAPA conference. You can actually see a photo of the Skyliner gondola. It's very interesting. I still don't know how I feel about this. Do you guys have anything you want to share about
I'm
that?
still concerned about the air conditioning.
Oh, so am I.
Yeah, that and just the speed at which they travel. There's a lot of question marks still up in the air.
Yeah, I'm kind of happy this isn't going to be ready when I'm there the next time, because part of me would be like, I have to go do this. I have to try this. This is a new thing, and I want to see how it fares, first before I actually commit myself to this.
Yeah, like I don't want to be there opening weekend when they start running these things and trying to jump on them.
The gondola itself looks cool, but it looks also terrifying when I think about the fact that it's going to be hanging from like a wire.
Right?
Yeah, you just kind of reminded me that I have a fear of heights, and I'm probably not going to do too well with these.
Well, that's the worst part. Like, I have a fear of heights too, but it's more like freestanding heights, so this is not appealing to me at all. But the Disney fan in me is like, you got to do this. We got to try this.
With my luck, I'm going to go, and it's going to be like a really windy day, and it's going to be like swaying back and forth the whole time.
God.
Oh, or it'll break down. That'll be it for me.
That's it. I might not go back to Disney if that happens.
I mean, it's still a terrible eyesore. I mean, I don't know. I'm glad that I don't stay at Pop Century or Art of Animation or Caribbean Beach, so I'm not worried about that, honestly. But it's just gonna look bad driving down to Epcot, you know.
I'm interested to see if they even try to hide some of this stuff. Like, I know we've talked about it personally on the show, how horrible it looks at some of the Caribbean beach rooms because the support beams are literally right next to some of the rooms. So it's going to be interesting to see if they try to cover it up with any kind of like foliage or just disguising the supports. Like, there's got to be something.
It also looks like anybody in this picture could get hit by a Skyliner. Like, it's pretty low to the ground and there's no fence. It's very odd.
That is very true. I did not think of that. So next up, we also have some details on the Guardians of the Galaxy ride that we've also been kind of talking about here and there. We talked about the patent for the cart. We were correct. This is going to be going to the Guardians of the Galaxy attraction with the spinning roller coaster cart. And we also got some footage of the actual coaster itself on the track. The one takeaway that I have from this, and I don't know if you guys have watched it yet, in the footage, the coaster itself moves with the cart itself moves pretty fast with the coaster. I'm interested to see how they make this with like show scenes and stuff, because the way that it spins, I think that might make me a little bit nauseous.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too, because I'm kind of prone to motion sickness, as you guys know. Anybody who hasn't heard my fun little story, go check out that little bonus clip. But yeah, I'm kind of nervous about this. Obviously, I'm going to have to do it, but just spinning around and going like one direction, I feel like my equilibrium's going to be like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Well, it just moves past what, like when it turns, it looks like it just spins. Like it doesn't even stop for a second to focus on anything that would be in that direction. Now, this is all outdoor test footage, so it could just be them showing how the cart moves. But just watching that one split second where it like almost turns all the way around, I was kind of afraid.
It does have a very Primeval Whirl feel to it, you know, where it slams you and turns you. And I can't, that's like one of the very few rides I just can't do.
Hold on. Before we continue this podcast, we need to settle a debate that decides on if Jerry's actually going to stay on the show or not.
Oh, boy.
How do you feel about Chester and Hester's?
Well, it's terrible, so I mean.
Thank you. All right, he can stay.
Wait, does somebody on this show enjoy Chester and Hester?
Yes.
I don't enjoy the rides. I like the backstory.
I love Primeval Whirl.
That is the weakest explanation for keeping it around ever. I enjoy the backstory.
I feel like I'm going to die on Primeval Whirl, which is definitely a thrill,
That's
I don't
the
know
whole point of it.
I don't know if I would say that I like it.
It says something that Kirsten and I both hate it, and Kirsten is the one that goes to Disney for thrill rides.
Yeah.
I love a good thrill ride. I don't like something that just slams you into the wall and then spins you around. It's that's more like torture to me. So no, I'm good without that personally. But no.
Also, this is something you can ride at your state fair. So,
Right.
But I love the backstory of Chester and Hester's.
What was that,
They're
Kirsten?
not quite as safe at the state fair, in my opinion.
True. Even scarier.
Although 2 people died on Primeval World, right? So
Yeah, but they died like somebody, like it was cast members that like the vehicle
they're
came
okay,
by and,
no
like,
big deal.
hit them in the head.
just cast members.
It wasn't the
Neither
actual
of those
ride.
are a good thing.
There's plenty of them. They're disposable.
Oh my god.
Oh, that's a good segue that I'm going to jump around in the news really quick. Speaking of disposable cast members, there was some news that broke today that select meet and greets will now have automated cameras installed instead of PhotoPass photographers. This was one that I got tagged in a lot today, but apparently Disney has decided that some of the character meet and greet locations would fare better without a PhotoPass photographer on site. So they installed these little boxes that are very far away and don't get you very good pictures of your character meet and greets.
It's so stupid. It's bull. Like, I'm livid. It's just like pinching pennies, like, thanks, Bob Iger. This is terrible. It's awful. And also, you know how the PhotoPass people are amazing and, like, they'll take pictures with your camera? You can't hand your own camera to a box.
I think that's probably the reason that they did this. And I have Memory Maker on my next trip. It's not something that I usually do, but because we were going to go with my girlfriend's parents, she wanted to put it on there. And then when they decided they didn't want to go, we just decided to keep it. I told her today I was very close to canceling it, but when we made all of the changes to our reservation, they told us the one thing that didn't allow us to change it online was the PhotoPass, and I don't want to go through having to cancel my reservation and pay for these stupid ticket prices. If you can't tell, I'm very angry.
All right, I'm gonna say I don't agree with this decision from Disney, but I am gonna play devil's advocate for just a sec here. I know this is not why they are doing it. It is most definitely a cost-cutting measure, but I will say that one thing that always kind of kills the immersion the few times that I do go to character meet and greets is that you're going into whatever area that these, the characters are supposed to be in from the story, and it's you, the character, and then a cameraman sitting there kind of kills that immersion a little bit. Now, again, I know that's not why they're doing this, but at least the one positive from this is maybe it will feel a little bit more immersive without the camera person standing there taking pictures.
I mean, that's if you get your photo. Everything's going to be blurry. It's not going to really help the situation.
They've already rolled these out, and if you look hard enough, you can find the pictures that the PhotoPass box takes, and it's in a very odd place, because I saw one with Tinkerbell. I think that's the first one that's done it. And it's far enough back that the character and the person that's with them, which is a smaller child, are kneeling down, and like Tinkerbell's at the child's height. But it looks like if Tinkerbell was standing up, you wouldn't be able to see Tinkerbell. So I'm wondering if like the camera adjusts itself based on where they are, but still the fact that I can see like a bunch of floor and then Tinkerbell, the composition of these photos is very off, and I didn't want to say that, but
yeah, but it's just like, how are you gonna know when? Like, obviously the flash is gonna go off, but you're not gonna be able to, like, is it gonna say like a photo booth, like 3, 2, 1, everybody?
It's terrible. I think that kills the immersion more.
Yeah, definitely. And it's like there's not gonna be cast members there to like give any direction of like when I went to meet the talking Mickey at Town Square Theater. I like went to take a picture, and I kind of like leaned down because I'm 5'10", and the Mickey was like way shorter than me, and the cast member was like, "Oh no, you can stand up straight. Like Mickey hangs out with Goofy all the time." I was like, "Oh okay," and I stood up straight, and I'm so glad that they made me, because it was like one of my favorite pictures that I've taken at the parks, and I feel like if I had been like leaning over like the way that I was hunched over, it would have looked really bad.
And also, like, because I feel like character attendants are more there to have people go up to the person, and then once whoever's there is done, send the next person. But now character attendants are going to have to be enforcing, like, hey, you have to go. It's time to go. You've taken enough pictures, or like whatever, and that's just giving them more to do that they're not really used to doing. I think it's kind of a lot to put on them. I'm going to have to ask my friend who works as a character attendant, like, what she's heard or like what she thinks.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. That's also very true.
Because there's going to be somebody there trying to take 30 pictures. Like, go. You're done.
Yeah. I wonder if they're going to have, like, the cast members that let you in actually go in and escort people out. But at the same time, that also adds a lot more time to the character experience and the stress on the cast members there, because they've got to attend to like how many different rooms, not to ruin that for you, but yeah.
It should just be a moving conveyor belt. You get on it, you take pictures with the character, and by the time you get to the end, you either got to get off or just fall over.
Please don't give them any ideas.
Please do not sit on the moving handrail.
Or please, people will stand still on the moving walkway and it'll just be terrible.
Oof. So the last news piece that we have this week is that Walt Disney World is releasing, or has released, some flyover video of the 15-story tower at Coronado Springs. We touched on this a little bit already, but should be open to Grand Destino Tower will be open July 2019, and you should start seeing reservations pop up soon-ish. Doesn't give us an exact date.
Man, how long has Coronado Springs been under construction? It feels like forever.
At least 2 years.
Man.
Yeah, well, this article says since 2017, but
Well,
who
it's
knows what they
almost
consider.
2019.
That's very true.
That's true.
It feels like a lot for just a tower.
Yeah,
And
I don't know.
that sums up like my exact feelings on this. As someone that used to stay at Coronado a lot, the last couple of years I haven't been too thrilled, and maybe that's just because we started staying at Riverside more, and I've talked enough about that. But I don't know. I don't know if I will see myself going back to Coronado in the near future.
I actually enjoyed it whenever I stayed there.
I like it. Don't get me wrong. I don't know. I think it's good. I've heard that you can get good group rates there because that is the like convention resort. But I've never needed that, so I guess maybe that's my distance from this now.
Yeah, I've never been to Coronado. Was this put on, like, was this something was torn down and this was put in its place, or is this like a whole new thing that's like an extra to the resort now?
If I remember, it was just an extra that was added on. I don't think they tore anything down. But it's definitely been going on for a while, and it's felt very weird. I do have to say that I do still like I'm like the one person that likes the Maya Grill, so I'll go back for that, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It looks kind of generic to me, the building.
Yeah, that's very true.
So, but I mean, it looks nice, but just generic.
Yeah, that's pretty much how I feel about it. So are we ready to move into the topic this week?
Let's do it.
So, as previously mentioned, we're going to be discussing some of the Disney Park IPs that have turned into movies. A few of us decided to sit down and watch these. I am guilty of not watching these in any recent times, so this is going to be interesting. But yeah, so before we dive into this, let's take a moment. I'll turn this over to Jerry, because I know Beth had specifically asked you to come on here for a couple of reasons. So do you want to give us your background on like movie stuff?
I don't know why she invited me on here, honestly.
Oh, okay. Well, then, oops.
No, I went to film school. I've been a movie buff since I was, I don't know, 2. My mom took me to the movies. I was one of the kids who didn't cry in the theater, which is a good thing. So I used to go to the movies all the time and kind of obsess over that. So I don't know. I've made my life kind of analyzing and discussing films. But, you know, haven't done it. I am a film editor, but that's that's not about watching them. That's about working on them, so it's a whole other story.
So you're a big movie fan,
Really?
to sum that all up. And I'm assuming that you've seen a good chunk of these. Is that correct?
I have seen every single one as of today when I was forced to watch The Country Bears.
I'm so sorry. Oh, man.
You know, it was the one movie I hadn't seen like at all, and I was like, one day I'm gonna have to watch this movie, and today was that day. So,
well, hopefully it's for a good cause. And
yeah, I guess.
Yeah. I have lots of thoughts about it later.
So, since Beth and Brian took the time to actually go over and watch these two, I'll turn it off to you guys, and you guys can have the show this week.
Well, I saw the Tower of Terror movie previously, but it's been a few years. I know, Brian, you watched it today, right?
Yeah, I started it last night. Kind of fell asleep and finished watching it today. It was okay. I feel like this is pretty much par for the course for like late 90s Disney direct-to-TV movies. So take that how you may. It's okay, but pretty forgettable in my opinion.
I liked it. I thought it was like, especially for a made-for-TV movie, I thought it was cute. Like, I think it was like a nice, wholesome plot, I guess. And it's just funny. It's like, you know, it's got these kind of big names in it, but I don't know if they were necessarily big names back then.
Right? I mean, Kirsten Dunst, right? Like, that was the first thing I can ever remember her being in.
Well, when was Jumanji?
Oh, geez, she was in Jumanji, wasn't
Wasn't that like the same year?
What about Interview with a Vampire? Come on.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow.
She was a kid in that.
Yeah. So she was in a bunch of stuff before that. We just forgot about it.
So why was she in this movie?
This did star the king of blandness, Steve Guttenberg. So you had that going for it.
Oh, man.
I mean,
just looked up when Jumanji came out just so I can contribute something to this. Kirsten was right, it did come out in the same year. But I also Googled Jumanji, and the first thing that came up was the new Jumanji, and I'm a little disappointed in that, so not going to go on that tangent there.
I was pleasantly surprised by the new Jumanji. I thought it was pretty funny.
I was pleasantly surprised with it, too, but
But it wasn't even the same movie.
I think that's good. I think it's better than trying to redo it exactly.
that's
Yeah.
fair. Anyway, Disney movies.
I look. If you want to hear my full thoughts on it, I did an episode on my show, Mouse Rants. We watched the entire thing and did commentary on it. It was brutal to get through, honestly. I mean, the good thing is it really did relate back to the story in Tower of Terror, the small story they do have. So I did like that. But some of the strange over-the-top acting I did not understand. Like, Melora Hardin is a great actor, and I don't know what she was doing in that. But
Yeah, I was very surprised to see her, too. I was kind of watching this, and I was like, where do I know her from? Where do I know her from? Where do I know her from? And I was like, oh, my gosh, it's Jan from The Office. So.
That's so funny. This is the reason I know her. She's in 17 again, right?
Yeah.
With Zac Efron. Mm-hmm. It's very different than recognizing her from The Office, but I like this movie, I think, because, I don't know, I'm an emotional person. I'm a big sucker, and the plot twist in this is, like, real, like, tugs at your heartstrings kind of thing. So for anybody listening, this whole show is probably going to be like spoilers, but these movies have all come out like 10 years ago, so you should have watched them by now probably. But yeah, the plot twist is basically like there's these two sisters, and one is like a movie star. The other sister that's not a movie star like puts a spell or casts like a curse on her, so she's like stuck in the hotel, and then because she didn't like remember it was her birthday or something, right?
yeah,
This sounds like you're trying to remember a dream that you had.
The problem is the very ending didn't make any sense whatsoever, because it's like one of them was young and the other one was old, but they're the same age, so it doesn't make any sense. And there was a whole thing, and then are they going to heaven? I don't know. It was a weirdly thrown together ending.
Well,
They're going to the Tip Top Club or whatever, right?
Yeah, but at the very end, after that, she sings a song and everybody disappears except for one. I don't know. It was very strange. Like, I don't understand how that ended. Honestly, it was. But look, it was a harmless movie. It was harmless.
Yeah.
The thing
that's a
that
good way to
killed
put
me
it.
about this was like the whole last 15 minutes of the film. It was just like this whole elephant in the room, like, hey, I bet they're going to get him in that elevator and it's going to end up falling. How are they going to do it?
So for our listeners that don't know what these are about, why don't we give a quick summary of the plot? I know we kind of touched on that a little bit with the general discussion with this, but like just quick breeze through the summary of this movie.
So I would say it starts out exactly the opening plot of Tower of Terror. You have the group of people in the Hollywood Tower Hotel that go in there, get struck by lightning, they go to the Twilight Zone. Cuts to the main character who is a what do you call it, like tabloid photographer. He ends up hearing a story from a woman who comes to his house to tell him to check out this haunted Hollywood Tower Hotel. He does with his niece, and ends up unraveling this mystery there. Turns out the lady who came to him was the girl that was
The not movie star sister.
right, the not movie star sister that got. Her sister was one of the people that got taken to the Twilight Zone, and she was actually a witch casting spells this whole time. But then, they have the typical Disney ending where everyone makes up and it all comes out rainbows and butterflies.
Exactly.
It sounds a lot worse with the description you just gave. It's like, man, this movie does sound pretty dumb.
Yeah, y'all are making me want to
it
watch
is.
this.
That's saying something if you're, because Kirsten's our Tower of Terror fan.
Seriously.
Oh, hey, y'all just wait till we get to Country Bears.
I think this is funny that this is one of the only movies that you can find in the Disney parks at their attraction. I mean, aside from Pirates of the Caribbean. That says something about it too, and also the cover.
It's the only one they're not embarrassed of.
Yeah,
That's what it is.
and the cover actually has the Tower of Terror attraction in the background.
It doesn't say Twilight Zone though, right? In the title screen, or am I wrong?
No, I don't think so. I don't think there was a single Twilight Zone reference in here because I don't think they had the rights to use that.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Oh wow,
That's
did
very
not
good,
notice
though.
that.
I wouldn't want that to be in the canon of Twilight Zone, honestly. I mean,
That's true.
Yeah.
It's actually I just googled it real quick because I wanted to see what the poster said. In the Wikipedia, which take that for what it is, it says the film, which has no connections to any incarnation of the Twilight Zone.
They want to put that down in writing.
yeah.
And it says it was also
We do not want to be associated with this.
yeah. Ooh, I guess I'm gonna have to go back and watch that one now. So what was the next one that you guys had on your list?
If you go,
Well, the next one is Mission to Mars, which came out in 2000.
Okay, I have to talk about this. This is based on the Mission to Mars ride. I didn't even realize that. I have a terrible, terrible phobia of space, and it's because of this movie.
Really?
Yes, and I had no idea until I was reading these notes that it was based on something Disney. My dad, he would always let me watch whatever he was watching, even though I'm the biggest chicken in the world, and he really shouldn't have. And I remember this was on TV once, and he let me stay in the room and watch it. And this is the reason that I'm terrified of space. I hate space movies. The idea of going to space makes me hyperventilate. I can't Gravity, I was sobbing in the movie theater because I ended up going to see that because I love Sandy B. This is why I have a space phobia, is this movie. And now I'm very sad to realize that it's based on Disney, and that's all I have to say. It was
this
terrifying.
wrecked
It was
your
so
little-
scary. Don't watch it, anybody.
It wrecked your little 11-year-old mind.
Yes.
Wow.
I mean, it wasn't a great movie, but I didn't think it was that bad. I guess, okay, look, we're spoiling things, right? Is that what
Yeah.
you said?
Yeah.
Give a plot summary of this so we know where we're going with this. Anyone.
Okay, so it's about, there's a group of friends, and for some reason they're all astronauts. And so are their, each person's spouse is also an astronaut, which that doesn't make sense.
I
But
just
okay.
noticed that in the because I have the IMDb pulled up for all of these. Some of the actresses that are in here are actually listed as NASA wife.
NASA wife. Yeah, I don't get why it just did. That part didn't make sense to me. But anyway, they go on this mission to Mars, literally, and it gets really messed up. Everybody dies, pretty much, except for Don Cheadle. And then they have to go on this rescue mission, and so Gary Sinise and the boys all go up and try to save him. And everybody dies, pretty much.
Dang.
Like the rock that's on Mars that looks like a face, it like comes to life, not to life, but it's like this terrible stuff starts coming out of it. I don't even know. And I vividly remember like a rock flies and hits an astronaut like in their face. And so obviously it like smashes their mask thingy and they are dead. And I remember that. And then I remember there's two people, a husband and wife astronaut in space. And for some reason, to save the lady, the dude has to open up his helmet and like die in the middle of space. And like you see his face freeze. Like these are the things I remember about this movie.
Oh my gosh. I have seen this movie and I didn't realize it until you said that.
Yes, it's so scary. Oh.
I don't remember anything because it's probably been 15 years since I've seen it. But
I love that everyone has repressed this movie. I also just added a photo to the show notes that literally proves the point that there are people listed as NASA wife.
Oh my god.
That's great.
Yeah, I mean, basically, yeah, the guy, it was played by Tim Robbins. His name was Woody, actually, in the movie. He was floating too close to the atmosphere of Mars, and there was no way they'd be able to reach him, but his wife was going to try anyway, which would kill her, too. So yeah.
Wow.
Is it all coming back to you, Kirsten?
Yep.
Oh, I don't even want to think about this. Like, I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight. I'm going to have nightmares about space.
Well, the weird thing is they actually tied in at the end, or I guess in the middle, a random alien subplot that was very reminiscent of 2001: A Space Odyssey. And I think that kind of is interesting since it was replaced with Alien Encounter.
Huh.
So.
That is interesting.
It was an interesting little connection there.
Yeah.
So I unfortunately did not have time to watch this movie before we recorded this because I was too busy watching Country Bears and making rage notes in my phone. But I pulled up the Wikipedia and I just want to point out that it says that this movie is set in 2020.
Coming up.
So
get ready, people.
Basically, yeah.
Why did they never set the movies far enough in the future? Never.
Well, they just had high hopes for our society that got crushed. They're like, oh yeah, we'll totally be doing awesome stuff by that time. Not.
I was gonna ask if anybody does remember like the ending of this movie, because I'm pretty sure that he dies at the end of the movie, even though like it doesn't really show you. It shows his life flashing before his eyes as he gets drowned, and then the spaceship goes flying off to an alien planet, but it never shows him alive. So I don't know, people.
I Googled how does the movie Mission to Mars end, and I just want to point out that there is a YouTube video that says Mission to Mars the end. It's about 5 minutes long. And it has this thumbnail that I'm not entirely sure what it is, but the one next to it says Mission to Mars best scene, and it has the same thumbnail. So does that mean the ending of Mission to Mars is the best part of this movie?
I guess.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, so I have no idea.
Yeah.
I just started playing the minute-long one in the background, and I'm very uncomfortable at his face.
Gary Sinise?
Yeah, it's like bloaty and like emotionless. Like,
So
yep,
he-
here I am. I'm dying.
So he's probably dead. Oh yeah, that's something we didn't bring up, is that Gary Sinise basically plays his character in Mission Space. Like, it's the same character.
Maybe that's why he
Right.
didn't come back for the new iteration. He's dead.
Okay, is Gary Sinise like an honorary astronaut at this point? Or why is every movie
Right?
he's in about space?
Love space.
I feel like he's done enough of the training to prepare for these movies. Like, he's got to be at least half an astronaut, right?
Well, he was half a man in Forrest Gump. That was a bad joke. I'm sorry.
So.
Are we ready to move on to the travesty?
I don't know. Do we want to move on?
Oh,
Do we just want to skip it?
I say
So
we
Mission
have
to Mars, guys.
I say we have to because
Well, obviously we have to. I had oh my god, literally paused this movie no less than 20 times as I was watching it. And at the end of it, I said to my boyfriend, who I made watch with me,
poor guy.
What he said to me was, "This is the meanest thing you've ever done." What I said was, "Well, that's $3 in an hour and a half of my life. I'm never getting back."
You found it for $3. I had to pay $4 for this.
Oh my!
Oh.
You know, Amazon
paid for it?
Prime Video.
I was gonna say,
had it
guys,
for
the internet.
$2.99.
Yeah, I was gonna say I didn't pay for this. Crazy.
I tried to find a bootleg. I did. I really did. But I was just like, I
Don't
don't
admit
have time
that.
for this.
You're gonna go to jail.
Okay, I did try to find a bootleg. Everybody, do it the legal way.
She meant to say she already had the VHS at home. Come on.
Yeah, I just didn't have my VCR.
I will say I had no idea this movie existed, and I was telling my husband today about our topic, and he was like, "There's a Tower of Terror movie," and I was like, "Yeah, duh." And he's like, "Well, I remember the Country Bears one. I used to watch that when I was little. It's okay."
Okay,
It's
hold on.
okay.
I have to stop
Not
this.
okay.
We haven't even gone over the plot summary yet, but I'm sitting on IMDb because I haven't watched any of these movies recently. And the Country Bears Jamboree, which has a 4 out of 10 star on IMDb, was
Did
also
not earn
apparently apparently it was also nominated for 4 awards, which it says Seymour Awards, and I clicked on it, and it says the Stinkers Bad Movie Awards.
I was about to say Christopher Walken was nominated for a Razzie.
He was also
Okay.
That's
worst supporting actor. He was also
well-deserved.
nominated for the worst supporting actor at the Stinkers, worst on-screen group for the Country Bears, and most distracting celebrity cameo appearance was Elton John.
Oh my
Elton
god,
John
it was
is in
so
Oh
bad.
my god. Okay, before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's go over the basic plot.
Oh, it
Let's
was.
call it a film.
Yeah, did you ever see Almost Famous? It's the same movie.
I was gonna say it's the 2011 Muppets movie. It
Oh,
is the
God, no, don't
same-
compare it to that.
I know it. I felt so bad watching it, making the comparison, but I was like, this is the same movie, but it's horrible.
Done really, really poorly.
Well, I'm sorry, guys. Christopher Walken was the best part of this movie. He did the most random things for no reason whatsoever. And I'm like, well, at least I'm getting a good laugh out of it.
His plot twist at the end was the thing that
okay.
like set me over the top. I was like,
I can't.
Hold
That
on.
was one of the 20 times I paused.
Hold on, start with the plot summary because we've avoided this like 6 times.
Plot summary. Here it is. Basically, is what happens. This family has a regular human son and a bear son, and the whole movie starts with him being like, "Am I adopted?" And they're like, "No. Why would you think that?" And I was like, maybe because he's a freaking bear. I don't know.
No one in
But-
this movie understands that everybody else is a bear. Like, how do they not see
He's
that?
like, right. And it's just like, okay, so he's like, got this family with a bear son and a regular son, and the regular son is like a huge douchebag, like major.
there's no reason
rude.
either.
No.
Literally, it has no context as to why he hates him so much. But basically, his brother's really mean to him and tells him he doesn't belong, so he runs away. And he loves the Country Bears, which was a band that was like apparently super famous and broke up. He loves the band, and he's like, well, I'm gonna go to Country Bear Hall because that's where I belong. So he goes to Country Bear Hall and finds out that it's getting torn down because he's 6 years behind in rent and owes the bank like $20,000. So he's like, let's get the band back together and we'll have a benefit show. And then hilarity ensues.
This
Does
sounds
it-
stupid.
It is.
After that comparison, it literally sounds like the Muppet movie.
It really is, but it's so poorly done. So I want, like, the thing that kills me is that they use a lot of the characters from Country Bear Jamboree. None of them look or sound anything like the characters.
I guess the closest is Big Al, but even he doesn't act anything like Big Al.
Right, and he has such a minor role in this, like, compared to the other country bears in it.
What, like Zeb Zuber and Fred Betterhead? What kind of names are these? I'm sorry.
Fred and Ted Betterhead.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Hold on. I know I have nothing to say about these movies, but I want to point out some stuff on the IMDb because that's all I'm doing this episode. First of all, the quote that is selected for this movie that out of context I'm very confused about, and I had to like rethink about this entire movie, and it's been years since I've seen it. But the quote is, "Do you like the sound of crunching wood? I do."
Well,
that's probably when Christopher Walken's character, who wants to tear down Country Hall, has literally like 50 wooden models of Country Bear Hall, and he just keeps dropping this giant anvil on it, like each one over and over, and does it literally like 10 times in a row. I'm like, how many of these models did you build just to break them?
And
also, he's wearing bunny slippers, okay?
And his boxers. Yeah, he's just walking around in his boxers and bunny slippers.
Before you said that,
he has the custom hood ornament of the crane on his car, just like just to drive the point home.
Before you said all of that, I was actually convinced that Christopher Walken played Kirsten in this movie.
Actually, that would be very fun to have a model of country bears and smash it.
But there's also a section right here that says goofs, and I'm sure you guys have some of these, or at least Beth, since she stopped the movie 30 times. But it says, after Barry and Henry get into the bus to go get the band, there's a shot of Barry hanging out the window of the side of the bus. In the shot, the bus is clean, but this is before the bus goes through the car wash. The next outside shot, the bus is dirty.
They reused that scene.
Wait,
they did it at the beginning and the end.
Is the bear named Barry?
Yes.
Yeah. Barry
Barry Barrington.
Come on.
I feel like somebody's kid made up this whole movie and all the names.
Someone's kid directed this whole movie.
This is the Country Bears fan fiction that Brian wrote when he was like 5.
No, this was one of the people who worked on the film. This was their kid's like 3rd grade short story that they wrote. It's like, this is the dark age of the Disney films. Let's just make this into a movie.
Oh my gosh.
So,
Well, now that we've roasted this one.
I'm not done.
Oh my gosh. Can we touch on some of the cameos in here too? Like, I think that dates this movie. So we've got Queen Latifah.
Which, by the way, I just want to stop you. So the whole thing with Queen Latifah is she's a bartender. I guess she owns the bar. And Zeb Zuber, one of the Country Bears, is like living there, like sleeping on her floor, and owes her like $500. And she complains about those things, and then also complains about the fact that he calls her Cha-Cha, but never establishes what her character's name actually is.
Nope, she's supposed to play herself. That's what it says in the credits.
Really?
Yeah, I watched the end, and it said Queen Latifah as herself.
See, okay, because in IMDb...
At what point was that established that this is the Queen Latifah, like actually Queen Latifah? Like, Queen Latifah's not a bartender? What?
Because in IMDb, it credits her as Cha-Cha.
So even IMDb is calling her Cha-Cha. She's not having a good time.
Right?
So, Queen Latifah, Crystal Harris, who was the first impromptu music number that they did. Apparently, she was a one-hit wonder. Okay, because I was watching this the whole time and I'm thinking, okay, I guess she's famous. I've never heard of her before, but it was very clear that they were using her in like a cameo role. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
She was a one-hit wonder. She had like a pop song on the radio. But that's it. Like one song.
Okay. And then Elton John. Okay.
I'm kind of mad at Elton John for sinking this low.
Look,
how much money did they have to pay him?
That's a good question. But I guarantee you, rewatching this, watching it the first time, thinking back about it, the scene that they have him in, I think it's very clear that they did a little bit of reshoot and some editing in here, because they showed him in his little gardener outfit or whatever, and then cut to, I think they realized that not a lot of people were going to recognize him, off the bat, because they had to make it very explicitly obvious multiple other times, like, hey, that was Elton John. Did y'all see that? Oh, yeah, that was Elton John. Did y'all know his gardener was Elton John? Like, multiple times just to drive it home. So.
Yeah, but you thought that people would know who Brian Setzer was? The only good cameo in the movie? Well,
I don't know who Brian Setzer is.
yeah, he's a swing guy. He was in the Stray Cats, and then he did the Brian Setzer Orchestra. Very famous in the 90s. They did Jump, Jive, and Wail.
Okay, so he was the one that did the
rockabilly
battle with Zeb, and he's doing the fiddle, and that guy's doing the guitar.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Now, for any of y'all that were brave enough to stick around for like the post-credit cameo roles they did there.
Yep.
Okay, I got a legitimate laugh out of the Willie Nelson one. So just to tie this in, this was kind of an adult theme they added in there, but they started talking about the Country Bears getting really into using honey after that, and they cut to Willie Nelson giving an interview, and he says, "Oh yeah, I actually ate a jar of honey on the roof of the White House with the Country Bears." I got a legitimate laugh out of that.
Was that the only time you laughed at this movie?
Yes, it was. And it was at the very
I actually
end.
laughed one time at this movie as well. I don't know. I didn't want to interrupt you, but...
What was your one time?
My one time was when... Okay, so they are going around trying to pick up all the Country Bears, right? And they stop at this motel, which just happens to be Trixie St. Clair is performing at, which... It is established earlier that Tennessee, whatever his last name was, Tennessee O'Neill, is like heartbroken over Trixie because they were like together and then they broke up. So Trixie just happens to be performing, and the like voices that are like doing the dialogue and the voices that are singing are two obviously very different voices. And Trixie's singing voice is Bonnie Raitt, and Tennessee O'Neill's is Don Henley from the Eagles / Don Henley.
God, there's
Don
a lot
Henley.
of famous people in this for this to be so terrible.
Yeah.
And so Tennessee and Trixie sing this duet, and then it pans to the bar where actual Bonnie Raitt and Don Henley are sitting, and Bonnie Raitt says, "They're good. They were always good." And Don Henley says, "Better than the Eagles."
Wow, that completely went over my head when I watched it.
I literally, my notes that I wrote, I said, I actually love this joke, but I think it was probably way over the heads of 99% of the audience.
Wow, Brian, you're in the 99%.
Oh.
Also, just want to point out that since the Country Bears broke up, pretty much all of them have like dead-end jobs, except for Tennessee, who became a marriage counselor.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That was such an unnecessary.
Even though he broke up with his soulmate.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that was like they introduced him. He's wearing like this, I don't know, marriage counselor sweater in his office with this couple, and they're like trying to sort their problems out, and then he just starts sobbing. "Oh, Trixie, I miss you. I love you, Trixie." And
Please
then the
talk in
walks
that
out.
voice for the rest of this episode.
No.
Yeah, and then apparently he did a good job or whatever. I don't know. I hated this movie so much. Everything didn't make sense. There was times during the action scenes where it stopped being the animatronic bears that they showed, and it was these just stuffed animal bears sitting there, not moving. It was beyond. I'm like, this is a Disney movie. I don't know. I can't even. The production. I mean, look, this movie lost over half the money it put into it, so I'm not surprised.
Yeah. So, another thing I wanted to point out is Christopher Walken's character, him being the bad guy, right? So he's like the banker that wants to tear down Country Hall. I feel like they didn't establish what his name was until like halfway through the movie. And I can't even remember it now.
Oh, well, because they had to for the
something.
plot twist.
But the name of... Okay, so I guess we should just go ahead and talk about that.
Yeah.
So the plot twist, the big plot twist at the end, is that the guy who Christopher Walken's character, whose character's name I can't remember, it's a different name than the one that they established earlier in the film.
He's referred. I think his IMDb credit is Reed Thimble, which I believe is the name that he was using throughout most of the movie.
Reed Thimble was him as the bad guy adult. And so basically he has devoted his life to destroying the Country Bears and like tearing down Country Bear Hall because years and years ago he was in a music, quote unquote music competition against the Country Bears and the Country Bears won. And his musical talent was doing armpit farts. I wish I was making this up.
It's so cringeworthy. Like, just watching him do it, though, that was even worse.
Oh my God, it was so bad.
Yeah, for the setup to this, I'm going to walk everyone through this so they don't have to watch the movie. There's a standoff, with Christopher Walken's character. He has all the Country Bears cornered at the end, and he reaches into his shirt pocket like he's about to pull out a gun. And then immediately started.
He already had a gun.
Did he already have the gun?
He was holding them at gunpoint.
Oh, that's right.
And like forced them into a cage. So anyway, go ahead.
Yeah,
Brian.
so he reaches into his shirt like he's about to pull something else out, and then he starts doing the armpit fart song. Like, wow. Dang.
How do they get him to do this movie?
Man, they had some dirt on him. I'm telling you, they had some dirt on him. They were blackmailing him. There is no way Christopher Walken takes this role just for money. This was bad.
I'm sorry. Am I the only person that doesn't like Christopher Walken?
I don't really have an opinion on him.
Yeah, I don't either.
I think he's a terrible actor. He plays the same character in every movie.
Yeah, his voice.
He doesn't use any tone in his voice. He's like, it's the same voice. He talks like this the entire movie, regardless of what the context is.
There's not enough commas in what you just said in his voice.
Oh.
Anyway.
So I want to give a fun fact that I actually knew before I started sitting here browsing IMDb. I can't remember which character she is in this movie, but Terry Hardin, who is a very famous puppeteer and also a Disney Imagineer, was in this movie as one of the Country Bears. But to tie it full circle, she's actually one of the sculptors for the set design of Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, and she designed the Dragon's Lair attraction in Disneyland Paris. She also was a puppeteer in Captain EO, so she's got a lot of notable Disney parks credits. She was also on Dinosaur and some Muppets stuff too, but very interesting person. Fun little trivia fact.
It's kind of embarrassing that it was the Jim Henson workshop that worked on this movie.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's very embarrassing.
The last point that I wanted to bring up is that I feel like they tried really hard to make this a musical, but unlike a real musical, like a good musical, none of the songs moved the plot forward, and all of them were forgettable, and you could, like, it was impossible to suspend your disbelief. Like, normally, you're watching a musical, everybody starts singing, and you suspend your disbelief at the fact that everyone knows the song, and everybody's singing along and can do the choreography. This is not the case. It's like, everything felt so out of place, especially the one in the diner.
Oh, yeah.
That scene was so terrible. I just could not even handle it.
It was trying to recreate the Blues Brothers, where it just jumps into song for no reason. But the thing is, the Blues Brothers was funny and good. This was neither of those things. Yeah. Oh man. Also, they said that one of the guys invented stage diving, and I'm like, really? Country music, stage diving? Don't think so. Sorry, move on.
Oh man.
I mean, have you been to see George Strait? Just kidding. But he could stage dive if you wanted. I would catch him.
You mean you can actually tell him apart from other celebrities?
Excuse me, King George is very identifiable. And my mom, I grew up with my mom having a poster of him in her closet, so yeah.
Wait, do we want to touch that one? So I want to really quick also touch on this one. I know we've been talking about the Country Bears a lot, but I'm looking at pictures from this movie now, and how 90s is the younger brother's hairstyle. Like,
oh my God, with the frosted
yes.
tip. Yes,
he looks
I
like,
literally had that thought.
He looks like Reese from Malcolm in the Middle. I thought it was him.
Oh my
first.
gosh.
Yeah, he does. Dang. So if you guys are ready to move on, I can tie this up with Roger Ebert's review of this movie.
Imagine it's just an amazing review.
So I didn't write the quote down, but basically what it says was, the technical effects of the puppets in this movie were good, but don't let them distract of how truly meaningless the plot is. So take that with whatever you want to take it. Watch the movie if you feel like having a bad day.
I just don't know how hard it is to just relate the plot back to the actual attraction. They could have just used the characters from the attraction, not made up these new Country Bears. I don't get it. Why do that?
Yeah, makes no sense.
I think, in all seriousness, like not even trying to be funny, this may very well be the worst movie I have ever seen before in my life. Like, it is that bad.
You and I need to watch some movies because I have some for you.
Then that's going to do it for us this week. Thanks for joining us again on another episode of the Station 71 podcast. If you like what you heard, be sure to subscribe to us on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts from, and leave us a review as well, as that greatly helps out the show. If you want to get in touch with us on social media, links to all of our social medias will be in the show notes down below, as well as on our website, station71podcast.com. If you want to send us a question or have something you want us to talk about on the show, you can email it to station71podcast@gmail.com or leave us a voice message at 561-899-6441. We hope you enjoyed your ride, and we'll see you real soon.
Please stand clear of the doors. Por favor, manténganse alejado de las puertas.